If you really want to gain velocity and getting people to back you in whatever you want to do, you have to engage them in the process. What we always want to strive for is to exceed others' expectations and not to disappoint people. But what we're also striving for is how to maintain our velocity and how to make sure we're working on the right tasks that move us forward. So the secret to gaining velocity and influence is to engage your audience. Many of us today are feeling out of sorts. We are in a period of flux and not sure of our future. Today is only a point in time in our lives. How we handle this difficult period will impact our overall performance in life. Are you letting this tough moment negatively impact you, or are you using it to create breakthrough thinking on what you want and need to do to win the marathon of life? Now, you're taking some quantified risks which will help you gain velocity. Good afternoon and welcome to this week's Velocity Mindset Success Stories. Hi, my name is Karr and I'm the author of the Velocity Mindset. You're in for a real treat today. The guest that I have on the show is someone I really want on the show for a long time. Why? Well, let's just say that for the last 2 decades, I've been reading his e-zines every Friday when they're sent out and watching his videos. And I can honestly say they've made a huge impact on my life. And I only hope that in our friendship that I've repaid that favor to him in some way or fashion. So who is this amazing man that we have on the show? His name is Gage. He's a thought-provoking critical thinker who will make you approach your business and your life in a whole new way. Randy is the author of 14 books translated in 25 languages, including his recent worldwide bestseller, Rebirth. He's spoken to more than 2 million people in over 50 countries and is a member of both the Speakers Hall of Fame and the Direct Selling Hall of Fame. And when he's not prowling the podium or locked into his lonely writer's garret, you'll probably see him or find him playing, get this please, drum roll, third base. That's right, I said it, third base for a softball team somewhere near you. Randy, welcome to the show.
Hey, Ron, great to be on with you.
Thank you so much. Now, you're all about prosperity and scarcity. And, I said you made a huge impact in your life. I will admit, I'm going to admit it to everybody in the world, I was a scarcity thinker for a big part of my life until I met you. And I still battle that because I still find myself sometimes when I have to make a decision thinking about scarcity or prosperity. So in the spirit of velocity, velocity is not just speed, but it's speed with direction what we want to accomplish. That helps us make sure we make the right decisions in our life and carry out the right tasks. In that framework, Randy, what are the 3 things that you feel stops many of us from thinking in a prosperity mindset and going to the comfort level of the scarcity mindset?
Okay, so I got to do 3 things. Let me think. 1, 2, 3. One would be first that comes to mind is they don't know where they really want to go.
And that goes with the direction we're talking about.
Yeah, because the direction only works if you've done mindful thinking about, is that really the direction? I come across so many people that are a dentist because 3 generations of their family were dentists. They're in the military because every generation of their family has served in the military since the Civil War or World War II or whatever. And there's millions of people that never really just said, what do I really want to do?
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because I remember I was in a training program with you one time and you were asking, what do you want your future to look like? And I always ask my clients that, but I have to admit, for the longest time, I had trouble doing it. Now, you and I have a colleague that we all know really well, Nito Cobain, president of High Point University. And he came to the United States with only $15 in his pocket. And I interviewed him on this show earlier, and I said, "So Nito, you had a vision of what you wanted when you came here, right?" And he made this clear distinction. He said, "Ron, I had a vision, but the clarity of vision only comes by walking the journey." And when he said that, that really allowed me to do a better job of understanding what I wanted to accomplish, because everybody thinks they have to have it all figured out up front. And when I teach leaders, one of the things I say is you don't have to have the answers up front. You have to know where you want to go, an idea, so that you can start asking the right questions that helps you get there. Do you agree with that? And if you have anything to add to that, what would you add from your perspective?
Yeah, you don't have to have the answer, but you do have to have the question. And
Right.
if you don't ask the right question, then the answer is irrelevant. Or sometimes, if you don't ask the right question, the answer is dangerous.
Exactly. So what is the right question?
It's not one question. When Nito talks about the journey and your footsteps in the journey, it's about, really, to me, this is me interpreting Nito. We'll see, he could push back on me, let's see. But I think it's about self-awareness, right? Having the ability to rise up above yourself, to go up to 30,000 feet, look down on yourself mindfully and say, why am I choosing this path? What caused me to start taking this path? Did I do it mindfully, or was I reacting instinctively? If I continue on this path, is it going to take me to where I want to be? Or am I just doing it by default setting because that's what everybody does? There's so many knee-jerk reactionary things we do because that's the way it's always been done, or that's what everybody says, or it's conventional wisdom. And it's horrific advice. And I think there's millions of people that are hating their job in the corporate world or some other environment, and they would be so much happier if they made 60% less than they made now, but they were a painter or a dancer or a hip hop artist or a book author or something else.
Usually when someone decides to take a different course and actually does in their lives, it usually comes from some great deal of pain that they're feeling. And when you're in that level of deep pain, it's really hard to think about what you're talking about now, which is to figure out what you want, when you're suffering so much. And this is how you basically started, from knowing your story, when you were a young man. I'm going to let you share that story, but if you can, I just don't want you to share the story, that led to your life's work, but tell us, what did you get from that experience specifically? And talk about how you were able to pull yourself up and see that direction to keep you going.
Well, I'm not sure which story you mean, because I've got a lot of stories that would qualify that. I guess you're talking about being 15 years old, being in jail for armed robbery and burglary.
Yeah, that started the whole cycle for you, yes.
Okay. Unfortunately, it didn't start the whole cycle.
Oh, okay.
It was just a continuation of being a teenage alcoholic, being a teenage drug dealer, drug addict, and drug dealer. But yeah, certainly was one of the seminal moments in my life, because I was blessed that a teacher who was the father of a school friend came in to see me in jail and said, "You don't belong here. You're capable of great things." And I didn't even know him. He didn't know me. So I was like, "You don't even know what you're talking about. Get out of here," And he's like, "No, I talk to your teachers. They tell me you skip school for 3-4 weeks straight and then come in and ace a test. Your reading comprehension level's above college level. You could do amazing things. You really don't belong here." And, I had probably been in jail for about a month at that point. And the routine is you just stare at the door. There's a little glass window in the door with the glass with the wire runs through it. It's how jails were in those days. And you spend all day staring at that little window in the door, wondering, hoping somebody will walk by to break up the monotony of your life. And you kind of think about your life like, maybe I haven't been making the best life choices so far. You can't articulate it that well at 15, but you experience it, right? So by the time, his name was Baxter Richardson. So by the time Baxter said that, I so desperately wanted to believe it that I believed it. And that's the kind of thing that when you believe it, it's true. And if you don't believe it, it's not true. It's really that black and white, right? You, at some point, you have to bet on yourself. At some point, you have to accept you're worthy. At some point, you have to accept you deserve more and you're capable of more.
So how does someone believe in themselves when they don't have the anecdotal evidence to prove it to themselves?
Well, that's always the case, right? If we had the anecdotal evidence, we'd already believe, right?
Right.
So what happens a lot of times is what happened to me, which kind of caused me to dedicate my life later to a similar kind of path. Basically since, 1995 or something, I've been teaching the principles of prosperity and trying to do what Baxter did for me, which was believe in me before I even believed in myself. And so we have to, and that's not easy to find people like that, right? But we start by mindfully choosing our environment, surroundings, and the people that we're going to associate with. And when we choose to do that, you'll find yourself at some point in the company of somebody who's going to believe in you, even if you haven't yet believed in yourself.
So we always hear this statement over and over, fake it till you make it. But you're really redefining that statement. It's not about faking it. It's about believing in yourself, even if you feel you haven't made it yet. Not faking it, but believing in yourself.
Yeah, and it's taking you just have to. I mean, for me, as you know, you've seen the Radical Rebirth book. I have a pretty step-by-step process that I believe in, and I think it goes back to where you have to really analyze what are my core foundational beliefs. And I break it down into 6 areas in the book, as you know. And I think, money and success, health and wellness, sex and sexuality, relationships and marriage, job and career. We all have core foundational beliefs that unfortunately most people don't realize they develop them before they're 8 or 9 years old. So if you have this core foundational belief that, let's say a God and religion is one of the 6 categories, right? This is one of the topics I talk about that has people grinding their molars because it threatens a lot of their beliefs, right? There's so many crazy dysfunctional beliefs propagated by organized religion. That you're not worthy, that you're not supposed to enjoy your life here, that your reward is only going to come in the afterlife, right? So if you're programmed with those kind of things, I could talk about the Hindu doctrine of karma, the Muslim, the Eightfold Path, and the Buddhist, the Muslim doctrine of it's slipping me. I have long COVID, for those who don't know, and man, sometimes you just can't pull those things out of the file that you want. But I went on a sabbatical and spent a couple of years studying the world's major organized religions. And I think the core message of those religions is beautiful. The core message is usually revolving around love. But I feel like organized religion has hijacked some of those beliefs and turned them into really dysfunctional ones. So if you believe you're here paying penance because you were a camel thief 2 lifetimes ago, what's the odds you're going to let yourself be happy? If you believe that you're going to reach enlightenment on your 190th life and you're only on your 174th life, what's the chance you're going to let yourself be successful? Right? So we self-sabotage ourselves. And that really, what it boils down to is worthiness issues. And those worthiness issues come from those core beliefs. So I know this is a long answer, but it's an important process. You've got to go back, identify what are those core beliefs that are dysfunctional, that might cause you to self-sabotage. You got to blow them up. You got to replace them with empowering beliefs. And then you've got to keep nurturing and watering them with sustaining programming that, that environment, the people you associate with, the shows you watch, the movies, the books, all that stuff, so that you don't fall back into those limiting self-sabotage beliefs.
So in terms of the self-sabotaging beliefs, which is what attracted to me with you when you were talking about your scarcity versus prosperity mindset, which is a huge part of your work. What are the sabotaging beliefs of the high net worth? Because you deal with a lot of high net worth individuals. You coach them personally. What are some of the things that's in their belief system between scarcity and prosperity that's stripping them of velocity that you found?
They think money is bad and rich people are evil, even though they're desperately trying to make more money and become more successful. But they don't recognize that when they were 7 years old, their mother or their father or their uncle said something like, "We may not be rich, but at least we're honest." What does that mean? We may not be rich, but at least we're honest. Well, it means rich people are dishonest. And you're poor, that means you're honest. So you should be happy that you're poor. And you should never want to be rich, because then you would have to become one of those evil, mean, nasty rich people.
But is that the same? Is that also true of high net worth people who are, we would say, already rich? Is that also holding them back?
Well, I see it all the time. I just came back from an event in Mexico City, right? I had 12 of the highest level achievers there. There was a crowd, about 4,000 people, right? But I did a special council session with 12 the most successful people there. So the least person in the room is probably making $30,000 a month. So these are qualify as high level people, right? And there's ones who earn substantially more. And so, they were getting coaching from me on how they structure their business. And right away, the first guy I'm talking with, he says, so I'm suggesting to them different ways they could structure their business that would be more profitable for them. And the guy starts off his sentence with, "Well, I hear what you're saying. If I was greedy, I could do that." But I said, "Whoa, whoa, 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 what?" He's like, "Wow." I'm like, "What did you just say?" That was the first words out of his mouth, is, "If I was greedy." And I'm like, "Do you understand how you have structured this in your mind? That I'm saying, here's something that might improve your business 25 or 30% in terms of income, profitability, all of that." His first thing is, well, yeah, I could do that if I was greedy. And that's, imagine somebody who makes $300 a week. What's their consciousness? Or $3,000 a month? I mean, there are gay people who are homophobic. There are wealthy people who are anti-wealth. There are Black people who are racist against other Black people. It's self-hate. and it comes from self-worthiness.
So in that example that you just shared, by the time you were done with that interaction, what was the result for that individual? Did he change? Instead of thinking that wealthy people are greedy, did he come up with a new way of thinking?
He was perplexed for the next day, grinding his molars, because he first was like, no, I just said those words, but that isn't what I meant. I'm like, dude, that's not true. I don't believe that. I really believe those words you chose were conscious and deliberate, and you meant them. And it offends your sensibilities of yourself for me to suggest that you have that poverty consciousness, but I'm telling you, I believe it's true. And so he really was, I had another day with him, and he was sorting through that. And I got one message on follow up on WhatsApp. So I think he's really looking at it seriously. And that's usually the process for most people. The first thing is denial. Oh, no, that's not me. No, you're talking about other people. That certainly doesn't apply to me. And me pushing back, because you know me, I'm going to get up in your grill and challenge you. And I'm like, no, it is you. You did say that. You do believe that. You need to check that out. And I think he's still in the process of checking that out.
I have a friend who's a pastor. He was also a member of NSA. He was a speaker, and he changed his work to doing more about similar what you're talking about. And he said to me in a conversation, he goes, Ron, what do you think the biggest problem most people have? And I go, what? He goes, their relationship to money.
Oh, yeah.
Which is what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
So, Randy, we got about 8 minutes left. And by the way, if anybody wants to get on Randy's easing, look at his books, see his videos, which I highly do suggest. Not only does it make them engaging, but they're thought-provoking to have you look at your lives deeper and to see what you can do differently to get to where you want to be. Simply go to the link that's on your screen. It's www.randygage.com. So, Randy, a lot of us deal with the scarcity to prosperity mindset. We got roughly about 8 minutes left. Give us the 3 things that we can start working on today that can help us move from that scarcity to prosperity mindset. And how would you suggest we go about doing them?
Well, so let's go back to that first step one we talked about in the early question. Find out what are your core beliefs on those big areas: money, happiness and health, sexuality, God and religion, all those. Do you believe money is bad? Rich people are evil? You got to be a bad parent to be successful in business? That you got to rape and pillage and plunder the environment to be a successful company? That you have to exploit workers to be profitable? Did your parents bicker and fight with each other, and one cheated on the other, and that created your core foundational belief about marriage or relationships? Did you grow up in a house where everybody eats nothing but cake and cookies and chips and diet sodas and beer, and everybody's 30 pounds overweight by the time they're 40, and they're 60 pounds overweight by the time they're 60, and they need 10 prescription medicines to avoid getting their leg amputated from diabetes? Is that the environment you grew up in? Is that what's your core foundational belief about health? All of those things. So check, the first step is check out those beliefs. The second step would be then, okay, what is the empowering belief that I can replace that with? So,
and you do that for every belief you just wrote down?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, I thought that rich people were evil, but is that really true? Does that belief serve me? I thought money was evil. Is that true? Does that belief serve me? Isn't it true that if I'm a good person and I become very wealthy, I would be able to do amazing things with my wealth? That I could empower other people and, look after charities and take care of people who are the, most exploited and unable to protect themselves?
But
So what
how?
are you doing? You're repositioning that belief to an empowering one.
But is the question when you see those beliefs in those areas, is the first question then, is this empowering me? And
Is
the
this
answer
serving me? Is
is
this
serving me.
this belief serve me?
And if it's not,
And if it's
what?
not, you take it off just like you take off a jacket. You lay it down,
But
and
then you write down what you want it to be.
you replace it with a belief that serves you, that fits you better.
And if some of the beliefs are serving you, leave them alone.
So say again.
If some of the beliefs you wrote down from that list that you just covered a couple minutes ago are serving you, those you leave alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So now you have the beliefs as to how they're serving you or you want them to serve you. What's the next step after that?
Then you've got to keep reprogramming your mind with positive input that supports these new empowering beliefs.
All right,
Because
so obviously positive input could be your videos and your e-zines, but what could we do in a daily, in addition to that? Anybody's videos, but yours particular. But when you're working during the day and all of a sudden you get this negative, your relationship to money is not good, money's evil, you think, and now you want to think it's good, and all of a sudden you see yourself hitting a wall where it's like, oh, I can't do that because it's evil. What can you do at that particular moment to change that belief so you don't go down the rabbit hole?
I used to wear a rubber band on my hand, and every time I catch myself with a negative thought, I'd snap my wrist to create that feedback loop. Now I don't do that, but I still, every now and then somebody will say, something like that, and I'll say, yeah, I know, I always, blah, 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 and then say something negative. So I tap myself on the head, like, wow, wait a minute, cancel that thought. Well, that's funny. Where did that come from? Why, somebody says, let's go downtown and have dinner. I'm like, no, there's never anywhere to park down there. Man, where did that come from?
So you stretch that rubber band and it hits you, or you pinch yourself.
Yeah.
And then
you start to notice it.
You notice it.
When you start to notice the negative thoughts, they lose their power over you. And then you say, where did I get that? And then you say, I know where I got that. My mother said that 10 million times as I grew up. And now I realize I'm saying the same exact thing.
And then something happens, and correct me if I'm wrong, when it starts to lose the power of being that negative thought, doesn't that unleash your creativity then to think differently?
Yeah, because you actually laugh at it. It's like I think it's Progressive has a hysterical campaign out now of this guy. He's kind of like pretending to be a Dr. Phil kind of guy, and he counsels people how not to become their parents. I mean, it's hysterical.
There's a commercial on a guy like that.
Yeah, it's a commercial. It's a campaign. They have like 5 or 6 different versions of it. Yeah. And they're all, the guy who plays the doctor is just brilliant. It's perfect acting,
So we only have a minute left. So let's get to the results, because everybody wants to know what the results are. So when you've taken this process to high network people who supposedly have made it, they have, success, or successful people, give us a couple of examples of what additional success they may have gotten out of life or what they were doing as a result of addressing that at the top of the pinnacle when they are successful.
It's the breakthrough of total holistic prosperity is what happens, because it isn't about money. It's about the whole concept of prosperity. So you view your health, your relationships, everything in this new prosperity consciousness instead of poverty consciousness. And you realize, because here's something it's going to shock people. Most people, if you self-sabotage yourself at work because, you got passed up for promotion, you found a way to get fired, you found a way to keep buried under the cubicle so nobody saw you because you have worthiness issues, I guarantee you're doing the same thing with your health. You're doing the same thing with your relationships. And so when they finally reach breakthrough to realize that level, that key is that self-awareness. And having the right people. You need people you can check things out to say, hey, I have this idea for this, is this totally crazy? Is this me being delusional? Or is this something I got a shot I could do?
What a
And
power, I'm sorry, what a powerful way to end the show. You just gave a great quote. You see, every time I hear prosperity, or other people probably they think of money, and you're saying no, it's the prosperity of life.
yeah,
It's the prosperity of your relationships. It's the prosperity of your enjoyment. It's the prosperity of anything that you're trying to do, and what is the experience you're getting out of it, and is it as rich as you would like it to be? That's pretty powerful, Randy. So listen, my goal for the show of Randy Gage here is not to have him educate you in everything he knows, because quite frankly, that'll take at least a couple of years. My goal is to get you interested enough that you're going to go to randygage.com, sign up for his e-zines and his videos, and stay in the conversation. I've been in his conversation for over 20 years. It's made a huge impact on my life, and I would love for it to make a huge impact on your life and the velocity that you gain in living your life. That's today's version of the Velocity Mindset Success Stories. We want to thank you for being with us, and we look forward to seeing you next time.